Welcome to another episode of Two Derby Nuts, brought to you by StocKar Derby. I'm Scott Heima.
And I'm Joe McFarland.
Joe was with us about how to share a fast car or how to make a fast car. Again, we're raw and real. We're not professionals at this. And if we mess up, we're just going to keep going with it. But in this episode, we're going to talk a little bit about how to plan a derby. One thing, as the brigade chairman, I was extremely excited. Joe came up to me one year and said, Scott, you've got a lot to do. Can I help plan? Can I plan the derby and run it for you? It's like, no. It's like, yes, of course. We do this just as much for us men because we bond together through this. The friendship that Joe and I have had because of that strengthened, and I've been given permission from him to speak in his son's life throughout many different things. And so this is just as much for us derby nuts as it is for the boys. But part of the planning is, all right, there's some costs to this. And many years when I've had a little bit more time, and if you can find somebody to do this for you, I will go around to the local area and I'll go to, especially if they're like a local auto parts store and a hobby shop, or, almost anything automotive. One time it was a collision shop that I went to, and I said, hey, I'm having a local derby, and would you like to sponsor us? And we'll use the money that you provide to us to pay for our trophies. And I'm going to make a program, and if you give me your business card, I'll put a copy or put a scan of your business card in our program. And it's great. Hardly anybody says no to that. If you ask for a small amount, like 50, 75, I was asking for $100 and getting it, because I like to go big when it comes to our trophies and awards. And Joe and I were just talking a little bit about philosophy of awards. Joe, these are your son's trophies. You share with me a little bit about your sons and what you said just on your way over here for this episode.
So Scott asked me to bring some of the trophies, and I had to go look for them. My 17-year-old, almost 18-year-old now, his were in the basement. We had to go down and get there. But my 15-year-old and 12-year-old, theirs are on the top of their dresser. And they told me, they go, make sure my name's on the bottom. Don't get them mixed up, because those are my trophies.
And bring them back.
And bring them back. My youngest is like, Dad, what, am I going to get it back? And I'm like, of course you're going to get it back. We're just going to use it. So I think it meant something to them. I know that when they went up and got it and they brought it home, they were so excited because, it was an accomplishment. It was a milestone in their boyhood going to manhood. And, I think that, they had gone, at times they go in the basement and they go back and look at trophies I've obtained in different sports and so forth. And, they want to be like Dad. They want to have their trophies to show their kids, to say, hey, look, I did win something. And that'll inspire their kids to get into something, do their best, so that they can possibly win something as well.
Yeah. And I know that we're all limited with budgets and various things, but try to go a little bit beyond in this area. I really believe in it. The trophy supplier that I was using, this trophy's kind of hefty. It's got a marble base. They, due to costs, switch to a plastic base. I want to go find another vendor, because you picked it up and it's like, so light when you pick this one up, and you can even see here, it's a little wider, and it's got a wider tube to it as far as its column goes. I know that bigger isn't always better, but if a boy, there was one year we had a regional, and one of our young men from our Stockade won it. The trophy was almost as tall as him. He was beaming. He was beaming so much from the size of this trophy. So make sure that you go all out on your awards in your planning. And Joe has a lot of tips for you, because he and his wife were very instrumental. When we plan our derby out, we want to try to make it a big event. And so we'll run a few of our divisions based upon age, and then have an intermission. So we like to have a snack time. And Joe, share a little bit about what you've done for me and what you've done as far as snacks.
Well, we at church events, everybody likes to have snacks. That's a wonderful thing. Everybody partakes in those. And obviously, if you're going to do those, you need to get help. You need to get people to bring in snacks, coordinate that, and so forth. But I think that, as we all know, there's an increased prevalence of childhood allergies.
Yeah.
And we want church to be a safe place. We need to definitely have a high standard there. My youngest son has a very severe peanut, tree nut, and sesame allergy. And he carries an EpiPen with him 24/7. And so it was really important to us to make sure that we made it safe for him and all kids. So a couple things I would do with that. I mean, when you're asking for people to bring in snacks, you need to educate them with what you have possibly there. Ask them not to bring in foods with nuts, because even though that we provided safe treats for our son and other kids, you don't want another kid over there with a peanut butter cookie and it's all over their face.
Right.
It puts other kids in jeopardy, as well as know if you need something with gluten-free, or if you need somebody that has a non-sugar option as well, and have those clearly marked, have them at a special table, but make sure you communicate with those bringing them in. And as things come in, then, make sure you look really carefully at what's there so you can set them up appropriately and label everything so people know what to pick and what not to pick based on their child's allergies.
Yeah, Joe and his wife have really educated me on that considerably. We did a Stockade module from Christian Service Brigade, camp cooking, and one of the weeks you made trail mix. And his wife had actually sent me a list. Okay, here's what you can include in a trail mix for this. So it was very helpful. And one thing that we started a long time ago that really helped us, instead of putting it all on one or two people, send a notice out to all of the families that are going to be participating and say, please bring a snack to share. And on it, then you put your stipulations and whatnots for the allergies. We have never lacked. In fact, we've always had too much. And so when you put it upon the family, everybody loves to help bring snacks. And so that really takes the burden off of just a few people by having a lot of people included. All right. So part of planning ahead of time for your event is you want to make this an event. We're going to have a future episode on teachable moments that the Derby provides. That's one reason why I am a main Derby nut, is because of the teachable moments that are part of it. And making this a big event is a good announcer. And wasn't it you that recommended PJ several years ago?
Yes.
Oh, he's got a loud, booming voice. And, there's always dead time between heats as they're bringing the cars back to the starting line, getting the next cars ready for the next heat. There's a little bit of dead time, and a good announcer can fill that and make it an event so that it keeps moving. There was one year that I had one of our leaders dress up like a mechanic, but he was a buffoon. That was his role. And he came in and he had a couple Derby cars that it pretended like he was picking up Derby cars that were from the race and actually dropped them and broke it. And people were like, no, it was all staged. And so we had him as a distraction, and he did a lot. He and the announcer bounced off of each other as far as what they did during the event itself. Just as a few distractions here or there. One year I made a Mounds bar for my car. It's one of my favorite candy bars. So to really get the crowd going and get them enthused, I brought a bag of the miniature Mounds bars. And so the section that was cheering the loudest, I'd throw some of these candy bars over to them during the race. Any other tips that you may have for the game presentation itself?
I mean, one thing I like that you did was, especially with our stockaders, you would put them all out there and announce them individually and bring them in. So the main event was Stockade. We would do our tree climbers and so forth, but each boy would get announced, and Scott knew each boy so well, and sometimes would say one little fun thing about him or a nickname. but they would come in, and I think it just added to sort of the hype and pageantry of the race,
Yeah.
and made them feel real important.
Yeah, it takes a little bit of extra time, but there were a few years where you ever watch like a NASCAR race or even football, many sports, and they'll have a headshot of that player with their name and number. So I got the idea from these other sports, and so I took a picture of every participant, and I made a little logo, and we had I put their name and their car number. And as they were being announced coming in, projected on the screens, we had these photos of the boys running in, and we told them to really play it up. Some years we'd give them a flag and come in and run. And you ever been to a sporting event where they announce each player and they come in and they come in backwards or dance or do a lot of different things like that. And the boys really loved it. And one thing I've noticed too over the years during the presentation of the game is, if you run tree climbers and stockade meetings, if Christian Service Brigade, or we know that boys this age are loud and they're pretty rowdy. And we love that. Boys love activity. During an event, when they can be really loud and rowdy, many of them are just sitting on their hands. I cannot believe how many times I have to encourage them to scream and shout, yell for your car. I don't know if it's nerves because of their car. They want their car to do well in this heat. But so really get out there and encourage them to be loud. This is the time that they can do that and really have some fun. Get their parents and grandkids. We've never had a wave go through, but maybe that's happened at your derby. But if you're a derby nut like I am, keep thinking outside the box to make that presentation, because when the families go home, holy cow, where's this coming from? Getting a little emotional. I've had so many parents come up to me over the years thanking me for that day. It brought them closer together in so many different ways. That's going to be a whole nother episode. Maybe I won't cry too much in that one, about the many teachable moments that you can have. But that presentation on that day can really, really create memories that will literally last a lifetime. Thanks for this other episode on planning and preparing. And again, I've mentioned this book before. It's called the StocKar Derby book. If you go to StocKarDerby.com, you can go scroll down to our products page. There's many other tips that we weren't able to share in this book, the StocKar Derby book. This has been another episode of Two Derby Nuts. I'm Scott Heima.
I'm Joe McFarland.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.